the most fundamentally important concept in traditional Thai yoga. We say traditional Thai massage. I don't use that very much, and the reason why, there's no such thing. Okay, traditionally or historically, it doesn't exist. Thai massage, and I'm partly to blame for this. I won't take full responsibility. I'll take some little piece of responsibility. Since I was the first person to be certified as a teacher in Thailand who came to the United States to teach, people would ask me, what do I do? What am I doing? And I would tell them I'm doing yoga therapy from Thailand. And they would go, blank, glassy-eyed stare. They would look at me and they would go, yeah, nothing comes to mind. I have no idea. What's yoga? So I opened my school in 1983 in Atlanta, Georgia. In 1983, there were no yoga schools. So there were no yoga schools. There was nobody teaching yoga. There was, Yoga Journal was a pamphlet that was locally distributed in California. It wasn't even a magazine, okay? So when I would tell people that I was doing a yoga thing, they would look at me and go, yeah, what? India? India. Oh, I heard of India. Isn't that where tea's from? You know, and Indian food. They'd heard of Indian food. You know, curry. They heard of curry. Oh, is that like curry? Like once I told a prospective client, that I do yoga therapy, and she looked me right in the eye and goes, is that like curry? Oh my God. I mean, are you going to cook for me? Is that what we're talking about? Because all she knew about yoga was it came from India, and the only thing she knew about India was curry. 1983. You think that's ancient history. It seems like it, right? Seems like it. So then I would go, no, it's yoga from Thailand. And they'll go, Thai. I never heard of Thailand. Is that Taiwan? Is that where computers come from? Taiwan? I'm like, no, Thailand. They're like, nah, nothing comes up. Unless they were a veteran. Vietnam era veterans knew where Thailand was because R&R for Vietnam veterans was in Thailand. There were 6 American Air Force bases in Thailand that if you were on R&R, short R&R from Vietnam, you flew over Cambodia and were right in Thailand and either Chiang Mai or Bangkok, and that's the way it was. And even when I was in the Air Force, the first place I went to get orders was at the JustMag headquarters on Vien Thai Road at the Vien Thai Hotel, 2nd floor in Ban Lan Phu, Bangkok. I know it doesn't mean anything to you. But the only people who went to Thailand were American Air Force, American vets, American servicemen on R&R, and so on. So if I had a client who had that background, they knew what I was talking about. Oh, Thailand. Yeah, I know where that's at. But they didn't know what yoga was. And if they were not a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and had not been to Asia or Southeast Asia, they didn't have a clue what yoga was. The first yoga books weren't even published until the 60s. And then there was just a couple, and they weren't widely distributed at that time. Most people had never even heard of it. And so I had a hard time, so I would just tell them it's like massage from Thailand. And I and people who came after me and like that, we would just say, to keep it simple, forget the yoga thing, because then I had a problem. I was in Atlanta, and Atlanta, Georgia is really conservative religiously, especially in the past, okay? For example, my mom's family was fundamental Southern Baptist. First Baptist Church, fundamentalist Baptist. My mom never drank a drink her whole life. She's never smoked a cigarette. My mom never put makeup on her face, because only whores do that. And my mom never dyed her hair, and etc. But she ate Cheetos until she weighed 500 pounds. But that's another story. But the thing about it was, though, she's fundamentalist, very, very strict. And when I told my mama that I was going to Asia to learn yoga, she got on her knees and she cried and grabbed my leg and asked me, please don't go join Satan's army. And she wasn't kidding. That's my mother, all right? So if that's my mom, what's my neighborhood like? If that's my neighborhood, what's my town like? My church that I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, when I opened my first office on Buckhead, on Peachtree in Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia in 1983, my church organized a protest where they came over and picketed my office with signs. Down with Satan. Buddha is Satan. Yoga is satanic. And they got in front of my store and they walked in front of my office. And they did this for days. In fact, they did it until I went to the church and asked the elders to stop. I physically had to go and have a meeting with my church, and I had to resign from my church. I had to tell them I formally resigned. I had to sign a waiver. I had to sign a piece of paper saying that I quit and I'm no longer affiliated with this organization and I don't love Jesus anymore. And then, because I was no longer a member of the church and I was no longer blah, 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 then they had no reason to chastise me, to correct me. See, they thought they were doing a good thing. If they embarrass me, I'll quit what I'm doing. I'll come back to the church. I'll be a good little whatever. But I've never been good at being a good little anything, so why start? Why stop? Who cares? I have convictions. I work according to my inner light and my convictions, no matter what's going on around me. Okay? I recommend it. Highly recommend it. I learned this in Thailand. I didn't learn this at home. I learned this from the old man, from Pak Kru Samai Mesaman, because he told me that true medicine comes from the heart, your heart, not somebody else's heart. True medicine comes from your heart. And the most important thing about what a lot of people call Thai massage, I don't call it Thai massage, because in Thailand, Thai massage is back rubs at the beach for tourists. It's a rub down that lowly educated people do on tourists to make money. God bless them. They're very successful at that, although not now. That's all gone now. But traditional medicine is what's done in hospitals. So I'm going to show you the traditional medicine, okay? We call it yoga therapy, Thai yoga therapy, Thai Ayurveda. The most important thing about a treatment protocol in Thai yoga therapy is the practice of puja. Number one, it is the most important. It's what's carved in stone on the walls of Wat Po and on the walls of Wat Swandok, on the walls of Wat Sawankalok, and so on. It is not carved in stone an endless repertoire of yoga postures. That is actually not carved in stone. That is not what's on the walls of the temples. What's on the temples is the actual term, Promiwihansi, the four divine states of loving kindness, and how of unlimited, infinite thinking and loving kindness, and how what they are, the waterfall description that I gave you, that kind of thing. That's carved in stone on the walls. Okay? If we could go to Thailand now, I would take you and I would show you. All right? Because that's fun to see in person, right? But the application of that concept, Promiwihansi, is a philosophy of Theravada Buddhism and of classic Ayurveda too, I want to say. But the application of it in principle in therapy, on the mat, let's say, and we'll say on the mat, on the table, on the chair, because traditionally, actually right now in Thailand, this is not done on mats in hospitals. Hasn't been done on mats in hospitals for 30, 40 years. In Thailand, when you get this therapy in a hospital, you're always on a table. Okay? We teach it on the mat to teach you the traditional body mechanics and orientations and postures, the traditional yoga postures. But as soon as you know them, and as soon as you know a therapeutic protocol, the next step is to learn how to apply it on a table. Okay, or on a portable massage chair. I introduced that to Thailand about 40 years ago. Massage chair. That was not traditional. I brought one with me that I made. I made my first massage chair. I made my first massage table. You know, you couldn't buy them. There was no like Oak Works or let's call up, you know, some distributor and mail. I went to I had a client who was a partner in a furniture company and asked him if he could build me a table with folding legs. Okay, that company's still in existence. He formed a company. It's now called Blue Earth Tables. Okay, but Blue Earth Tables was a furniture company that made like Ethan Allen style traditional Southern furniture, and the owner's wife was one of my clients. I asked him to make a portable table for me. I still have it, believe it or not. It's still perfectly as good as the day they made it, but it's longer and wider and thicker and heavier than a modern massage table like an Oakworks or something like that, because I told him to make it so that it was strong enough I could jump up and down on top of it, because that's what I intended to do. And so he did. And guess what? I still have the table, okay? So we practice on tables in clinics and hospitals. And I'm going to show you that. We're going to go over that. That's application of everything we do. But no matter practice on a mat or practice on a table, the most important part of a traditional Thai therapy session is puja. Always has been, is now, always will be. So you've heard and seen me say maybe in some of the videos or whatnot, that the discipline is ancient, that it's old, that we've been doing Thai for a long time, a really long time. I told you my school, Puthai Sawan, which literally is translated as the school of the Buddha's heaven, okay, Puthai Sawan, is 1,000 years old. And still in the same buildings, in the same location, in the same place in Ayutthaya. You could go there today if you could go to Thailand, which you can't. Okay, there's a complete lockdown of the country, no tourism, okay? Not since March. It's devastating. My Thai friends, oh my God. However bad you think it is here, worse there. Because Thailand's a dictatorship. I'm not going to talk a lot about that on a video. But it's a military dictatorship. They took over the country in a coup 15 years ago. All right, anyway, fast track to now. Okay, the way that my teachers explained it to me is we have 10,000 techniques of healing, just like Kuan Yin has 10,000 arms. So Guan Yin, as the Thais call her, Guan Yin has 10,000 arms, okay? And if you see a statue or a painting or a likeness of Kuan Yin, okay, who's a revered deity in Thailand, in every hand is something. In every hand is something. There's an object in every hand. Or each hand is in a mudra, okay? A shape of the fingers, an articulation, a yoga posture of the hands, okay? And this is Kuan Yin mudra, okay? So there even is a Kuan Yin mudra. That's Kuan Yin holding the lotus flower, okay? Heart mudra, microcosmic orbit, Kuan Yin holding the manifesting unconditional love, and the lotus is the physical manifestation of love. That's what the lotus flower represents. Some people say, oh, it's consciousness is all. Okay, that's cool. I like that too. Okay, but that's not Thai. Okay, so we continue. In every hand is a tool. That's a technique for healing. That's a technique for bringing a relief of suffering to a person. So 10,000 hands is a metaphor for infinity, all that there is. So how many yoga postures are there? Nobody knows. Okay, why? Because it's infinity if you count a variation. So if you have Paschimottanasana, or you have a full forward bend, well, how many types of full forward bends are there? Well, there's full forward bends sitting. There are full forward bends sitting upright. There are full forward bends laying on your side. There's full forward bends on your back. It's called the plow. There's full forward bends standing. And then there are sub-variations of all of them. So just Paschimottanasana, there's 100 variations. It's just one yoga posture. There's 100 variations. You could do an hour-long vinyasa, never do the same posture for longer than a 10 count, and never get to the end of the variations of forward bend. That's how many there are. And how many yoga postures are there? All right. In the Harapika, there are only 4 that are listed. So in the oldest yoga document existing in India today, the most ancient manuscript that exists that references what we call yoga or uses the word yoga, there are only 4 postures that are mentioned. There's a full forward bend, there's a back bend, there's a twisting pose. It's called a twisting pose. It's not called triangle. It's not called warrior 3. It's not, that's all modern. That wasn't invented until the 50s and 60s. So it's called twisting pose. And